So we're going to start the next, the Wood 2 project here, which is this table. So this is called a shaker table. This is the example that I've been using for a couple of years, but it's kind of beat up, so I'll make another one. This top split in half, or this front split in half. There's no top. Rails missing. So we'll make another one, and I'll show you how to make it. Seeing as you had a woodshop class before, I'm going to go through this a little bit quicker, and we'll lead you through the steps to make this. But first, we're going to start by taking measurements of the legs, and we're going to make the legs first. That's our first focus, is I'm making the legs. So I'll grab my tape measure here and measure the legs, and I get 28 inches on the legs. So I need 4 legs that are 28 inches long, that are going to be 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches square, and chances are you're going to have to glue some material up to do that, and I'm going to have to do that as well. So we'll start by prepping the legs. To make the legs, we're going to be using this wood here, and it's in pretty rough shape, but it's usable. So I'm going to take this wood here, and I'm going to cut it at 30 inches with the skill saw. Remember, this is the skill saw here. So we're going to take our skill saw and clamp our boards to the bench. Make sure that we have 2 hands on the skill saw. Let me check your setup before you make your cuts. And then we're going to cut all these to, or I'm going to cut enough wood to make 4 legs to make our project. So I'll do that off camera, make all our cuts, and then come back and explain the next step. Okay, off camera, I got all the boards cut to a rough length. Again, we have a 30-inch leg we're going for, so I cut these. We have a 28-inch leg finished, and I cut all these boards to 30 inches, so I have a little bit of room to work with. Now, what I got to do is take this rough board, join a face, join an edge, make 2 faces flat to each other, glue them together, and then make 2 legs out of this stack and 2 legs out of this stack. So I will prep all that wood off camera because you know how to do that. Okay, so I got all my boards prepped to glue. These are going to be the legs. So I have 3 legs, or 3 boards in this case. That's going to be 2 legs. I'm going to cut it down the middle eventually after I glue it up. So I'm going to use the same technique where I glue these boards together. Don't glue this face, don't glue this face, and then glue these 3 faces together. And then after that, I'll have my 4 legs I need for my table. And again, I'll do that off camera. Well, before I do it off camera, just a refresher about how much glue to put on. I give myself a little squiggly line and then smash it on the next board. So I get a nice film of glue, something like that. You'll see where I have the gaps I need to fill in, so I'll just put some dots on that. And then that'll be about the amount of glue I want to use for my glue up. Okay, so again, I'll finish that off camera. While the legs are drying, I think I'll make some rails next. So here we have a total of 8 rails to make. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we'll need some material for that. So I'll grab some measurements off of this and then do our rough cuts. So here we're at 4 and 11. So we know 11 is going to be too short to run through the planer, so we want to cut it a little bit longer, 12, but why not make it 24 so we can get 2 boards out of that. So I'm going to use 24 as my rough number for my rail, so I can get 2 rails out of 1 cut. And then because our boards are kind of thin over here, I'm probably going to have to glue them together. So I'll do that the same day I do my legs to save some time that way. So over to my stack of wood here. I'll go ahead and grab some of these boards here, cut them to 24 inches. Get 2 rails out of each one. And then the thickness here, I think, is a little bit thinner than I need it to be. Yeah, it's a rough 3/4, and I need it to be a finished 3/4. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and join it, glue it, and then make a thicker board out of a thin board. Okay, and again, I'll do that off camera. So I'm just gonna cross cut with a skill saw, joint some faces, and get it ready to glue, and I'll glue it together. Okay, we got all our boards prepped to glue up. I'm gonna do the same thing I did last time with the legs, this time the rails. Your boards might be thick enough not to do this, but mine ended up being too thin. So I have to glue 2 together. And I'm gonna do that same process where I smear it with glue, making sure that I don't get the glue in the spot where I don't want it. So glue between the boards, no glue, glue between the boards, no glue, so forth and so on. And then just like I did the legs, I'm gonna do the rails. Okay, today is tomorrow and the glue is dry. These are my rails and I got my legs over here. So I'll unclamp all these and then scrape the glue off. When I scrape the glue off, I'll go ahead and joint the edges and make sure they're all nice and even. And start making, I guess, doesn't matter, I can make the legs or the rails. I'll start making the legs, so I'll unclamp them all, scrape them, and then come back to you. So I got my whatnots all unclamped here. So what I'm gonna do next, I got my glasses on. So I'm gonna take all that glue and scrape it off, throw it in the vise with my glasses on, of course, because this glue does go everywhere. Better if you can see. Here we go. And then we'll just take our scraper and scrape the glue. Scrape the glue. Okay. Once the majority of the glue is scraped off, I can go to the joiner and edge joint all those so it's nice and flat. So I'm going to do that to all the boards, legs and rails off camera, joint the edges, and then we'll come back to you. Okay, we are back from the joiner. I got one face and edge, or face and edge square to each other. I should double check that, make sure it is square. So we're looking for squareness, which that looks good. So now we're all square on one face and one edge. And the next goal is going to be to take our legs and cut them to size. There's some tricks we want to do before we do that. That's going to be to take the thickness here and plane it down to our final number, which is going to be 1.5. So right here we are at a little bit over 1 3/4, so 1 13/16, and we need to get that down to 1.5. So I'm going to draw a line with my pencil here, actually my pen, so you can see it better. So those two lines represent where the boards are glued together. So when I go to the planer and plane this down to 1.5, I want to take even material off of this board and this board, so we don't take it all off of one board. So the thickness on the outer boards kind of remains the same. And what I'll do is run it through the planer, flip it, run it through the planer, flip it, run it through the planer. So we have more or less even spacing on those outside boards.